And welcome to our Baylor Coaches Show this evening. We're glad you're with us, and what a great night we have planned. The Baylor Coaches Show live from Rudy's. And ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Baylor's new women's basketball coach, Nicki Collen, is here this evening. Welcome. What a great group. You bring out a crowd. Way to go.
Hey, getting used to it now, right?
That's good. Very good. Thank you all for being here. Those of you that are here live at Rudy's, those of you that are watching, those of you that are listening. And we'll spend the first half hour with Coach Collen, and then we will have Coach Dave Aranda here this evening. So a Boffo show. That's the word for the night.
Well, they're bringing in the best for last. So, just get me out of here and bring in the big guns.
No. We appreciate your time being here this evening. How are things going? You started practice, official formal practice 1 week ago today. How are things going?
Yeah, we're 5 practices in. Feel really good about 4 of those 5 practices, but certainly learned a lot in that one that wasn't quite as good, and thought we really rallied back today. We didn't practice well on Monday after 2 days off this weekend, so I thought their energy was good. I thought they took it seriously, and I just think everything's new for them. I feel like offensively we're actually ahead of where we're at defensively, just in terms of schemes, because we spent the whole summer, while not playing 5-on-5 or even 5-on-0, like conceptually teaching what we do, pick and roll offense, 2-man game, 3-man game. And so because of that, I feel like they have a better feel for what we're doing offensively than kind of the defensive side of the ball.
Gotcha. When it's not a good practice, you said 4 of the 5 were good. When it's not a good practice, what do you do? I mean, how do you rebound from that?
Well, I think, ultimately for me, I internalize everything. And so, we were maybe 30, 45 minutes in, and I just pulled them together, and they saw a different side of me. Quite frankly, a side they probably haven't seen before, but just where I challenge them to not waste the day. That, we have 30 practices to get ready before our first game. It's always going to feel like a lot, and it'll feel like ultimately a little when it all comes down to it. But to really not waste the day. And if that means we're simply getting conditioning out of it, I'll run them into the ground. If that's what I have to do, right. not certainly, stylistically what I want to do, but, I just don't want to waste practices. And so, I think from that perspective, I learned too about this team, because honestly, I have a general philosophy of meeting, teaching, drilling, playing, and meeting again, just kind of sequentially how we do things. Mm-hmm. And I actually hadn't done that for 3 practices. Just really felt like wanted to get the energy going early in practice. And so on Monday, I kind of went back to that philosophy and said, all right, we're gonna watch film. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna kind of show it, drill it, and it just, we didn't start with a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. And so what you learn as a new coach about a team is what works for this team. It's not always what works for you, but what is that balance between what you like to do and how you like to teach, and what's best for the group of players you've got. And so, we went back and said, all right, we're going to really break a sweat before we get going and drive the energy up early, and then get to the teaching component. So early we just went back and, got up and down and really got a sweat broken before we dialed it back. And then when we got to that point, I said, all right, everybody, be prepared. It's time to put your thinking caps on. Grabbed an imaginary hat, put it on my head. Like, everybody, Chloe's got them over here. If anyone needs a thinking cap, come pick one up from Chloe. She's available. So, just really getting them to think, okay, we've done a lot of things that were physical. Now we've got to really, kind of balance the mental side of it.
And do you feel like you've got a good handle on your team, what you have to work with, or is that, it's early. Is that still a work in progress?
Well, I think we're building. Certainly I know player tendencies. I know, strengths and weaknesses and things like that. But it's how do those fit together? That's what I'm still processing. We don't have a starting lineup today. And with 9 players, we're just super lucky to have an amazing male practice squad, because, that allows us to, one of the things that sometimes happens as you're establishing roles and playing time and somewhat dominance position by position, you play the players against one another. Yeah. So it's kind of like, today I'm going to put my foot down and say, no, I'm better than you. And then ultimately, when it comes together, they all have a role. They're all on the same team, but now they're at a point where they're competing for positions. They're competing for roles and minutes and all that and that. So, but we've certainly not been in position with 9 players to do that, and we've rarely had 9 healthy or 9 be able to fully participate. So, I think we're still trying to get to what works, who works. We have multiple players that can play the point, but who's the best at it, and then who's better as a combination guard, as a backup guard, as that type of thing. So, just seeing how the pieces fit together a little bit more.
Yeah, very good. So what you just said, you've got 9 players to work with. That's a really short roster. I mean, a short list there. And tell everybody about the practice squad, the guys that you bring in to allow you to get, most out of your 9 players.
Yeah, well, certainly started before I got here, but they call themselves the Dream Team or the Dream Teamers. And I will say this, I was incredibly impressed. If you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen the picture I took. But, I think we had 5 or 6 returning from last year. But on top of that, we did a tryout. We had over 30 players show up to try out for the team. And they're good. I mean, we have a number of, and one of the great things is we have a number of new freshmen.
Okay.
And so because of that, if you treat them right, if they enjoy it, like, hey, we don't have to do this every year. We've got a core group now, and they're going to come back, and they understand what we do, why we do it, kind of the expectations, because it's not a free-for-all. They're not at the slick, like trying to show off. It's really about defending us, playing the right way, making sure we don't get hurt, allowing us to load manage to some degree in terms of getting our players not as many reps all the time. And so, we've just got some players that I feel like could be playing Division II, low Division I, maybe even in an NAIA school. Wow. But because of COVID or because of other reasons, they had good academic scholarships to Baylor, and so here they are, and they want to be involved and love to play basketball. So, I mean, we've got I think we have a kid named Jackson Berry about 12 straight threes on us on Friday, and I finally got to the point where, hey, y'all gonna have a little pride because, like at this point, at least just run him off the line. I'm not saying he won't score, but he's just making fun of y'all at this point. So yeah, they're a great group, and knowing we have so many freshmen, we certainly are still trying to get them acclimated to kind of what the expectations are, and how to run stuff against us and not just run wild, because it can be the wild kingdom out there at times.
And kind of has new meaning this year, doesn't it? The Dream Team, with you coming from Atlanta.
Well, I
That's
mean,
good.
yeah. I
That's
mean, maybe they might have been the Dream Team before the Dream ever existed. I can't say.
They might have been.
Consider,
No, they might have been, seriously. But you could get them some Dream gear from Atlanta, and that just fits right into the Dream Team.
Yeah, I probably have a closet full of stuff right now that you're probably not going to see me walking around in. Whether it's all the right sizes, I can't say. But yeah.
I won't give away your closet. All right, let's take a break. Coach Nicki Collen is with us, Baylor women's basketball coach. She has taken the tour of Texas. We'll talk about that when we come back. Our tour stops in Waco tonight. We're at Rudy's Real Texas Barbecue. Take a break and be right back on tonight's Baylor Coaches Show. You're back with us on the Baylor Coaches Show, live from Rudy's on the Circle in Waco tonight. Glad you're with us. Hey, great crowd here at Rudy's Real Texas Barbecue. With Coach Nicki Collen, Baylor women's basketball head coach, to begin the show this evening. And I mentioned you've been on a tour of Texas. Maybe you've been to some places over the last week you've never been before. How'd that go?
I mean, hopefully it went well. I think, certainly the turnout was good. A lot of great hospitality around the state. I mean, the Baylor family's strong, around this state. So just really enjoyed getting to know people, kind of talking a lot about, in some ways, who I am and what I bring to the program, and in some ways how they can support what we're trying to do. So I think overall it was a good experience. I don't know if I've ever done it here before quite like this. So, bringing something new to the table.
Very cool. That's great. Baylor folks, let me say thanks to you for doing that, on behalf of those folks in Tyler and Lubbock and Midland and Houston and Austin. So I know they appreciated the opportunity for you coming to them. And in Dallas last week, there was a luncheon with you and Coach Drew together. I'm sorry, I missed that. That must have been great.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that was maybe something new as well.
Yes,
so,
it was. It was very much, but thanks for doing that also. We've got some questions from the audience. This is our First Place Foods Ask the Coach. First Place Foods, that's a darn good pickle. And first one is from Roy Evans. Roy is right over here. Roy says, with so many players leaving this year, do you see next year's class a mix of transfers and freshmen?
Well, first, Roy and I are very close friends.
Are you? That's good. That's good.
We meet at the bookstore about once a week. So when you come someplace for the first time, you got to establish the wardrobe. So
you are on track. Right.
Certainly we have a lot of Nike stuff through the program, but kind of adding other things to the mix. So yeah, good question. Certainly knowing Jordan Lewis, I know people are calling these guys super seniors, can't come back. Kamari McDaniel, also a super senior. Those are the only two that can't come back.
Okay.
The likelihood that Nalissa and Queen come back are probably maybe slim to none. Certainly we'll welcome them back if they do want to come. But yeah, I think from a recruiting perspective, it will be a mix of 2022s. Certainly the portal was a busy place in the spring. Based on when I got hired, we missed the portal season, quite frankly, other than Jamie, Asbury. But we'll probably be heavy into the portal in the spring. And, we're also in the junior college area. A lot of international junior college kids that, aren't there because of baggage. They're there because English is their second language, and so they got to get their start somewhere. So, we'd love to balance the roster. Certainly, I'm not sure I ever want to carry 15, but ideally more than 9.
Okay, yeah.
So
what's ideal? 13, 12,
yeah,
13?
12 or 13.
Yeah.
Certainly. I mean, it's hard to keep 12 players happy, so it's not like I look at the roster I have right now and say if I can keep everybody healthy, I think we've got a really unique situation where, everybody has an important role. And so that can be great for team chemistry when everyone feels like they're truly a part and has an opportunity day in and day out. But I think you just worry about the injury bug. So if we can get to 12, potentially 13, that's probably a safer number, especially if you have balance in your classes,
Right. Very good. Good question, Roy. Thanks very much. I think we've had a delivery from Aaliyah to you of some Hunn's private stock pickles. Thanks for that question. Here's another question on our First Place Foods Ask the Coach. It's from Carol. Where's Carol? Right here. All right, there's Carol. She says, who do you see being the leaders of this team?
We've got a veteran squad, and I think they lead in different ways. I think certainly Nalissa has the respect of her teammates because she's the Wade Trophy winner. She's the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year. She's the preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. Certainly a lot of stuff we do is going to be to her and through her. So, she leads in certain areas. I think Jordan Lewis is kind of that quiet, steady. She's just a grown woman sometimes among girls. She's a 6-year senior. She's got her master's degree. She's engaged. She's got her life kind of together. And so she's kind of a true pro in her approach, gets extra shots up, is there early, stays late, really understands the game, and is really kind of one of those special kids that, wasn't highly touted coming out of high school. Certainly Baylor didn't recruit her the first time around. But incrementally got better. Her numbers every year at Alabama were better. Her shooting percentage was better. So your confidence grows as your game grows. And so as someone who's a 6-year senior, I think she can be kind of that quiet leader on this team.
Nice. You mentioned those two, and just today the Big 12 announced preseason player of the year. It's Baylor's Nalissa Smith. How about that? Preseason player of the year. Great honor there. No surprise, really. And then Jamie is the Big 12 newcomer of
Jordan
the year.
is.
I'm sorry, Jordan.
Yeah.
Yes. Jordan
Well,
Lewis.
and the beauty of that, as I told her, is that I think she's like the oldest newcomer of the year, maybe ever. Like if there's a like a geriatric, version of newcomer, like Jordan fits the bill.
Yeah, well, good for her. I mean, she is a newcomer to the Big 12,
absolutely,
so she qualifies.
Absolutely.
And then Nalissa and Queen are first-team All-Big 12 preseason. So very good recognition for your players from the conference.
Yeah, and excited for Jamie Asbury. I mean, was honorable mention. I think when you look at that list, this kid scored 17 points a game last year in the Big 12. So a little surprised. She didn't get a few more votes, but I'm sure to some degree our players split votes, that way. But, I mean, Jamie can just really shoot the basketball. Yeah. So if you like threes, she's going to let it fly.
Yeah. How different will the roles for Nalissa and Queen be in your offense?
Well, I think ultimately they'll still get a lot of touches. I mean, it's not about getting them fewer touches. It's about playing a different way. It's about not burying them on the low block, for them to play in open space and have a cleaner lane. You'll see those guys at their best in pick and rolls, pick and roll, pick and pop, and really creating a little bit more off the bounce, like really just kind of opening the floor up. I've said it for 10 days now on this tour. You'll know that I have 100% buy-in from this team when Nalissa Smith turns down a contested layup and kicks to an open three-point shooter. And it's not because she's selfish or has ever been selfish. It's been system-driven. It's been, these are the shots we're trying to get. And it doesn't mean Nalissa will not go get a three-point play on one of those situations as well. So I don't want her to stop being aggressive, but when you have a 42% three-point shooter on your flank and what that can mean in terms of how easier it's going to be for you to get more clean shots on goal if you're willing to give it up occasionally. I think the challenge I've made to her since summer is when you look at Nalissa and you look at her potential for growth, the one glaring statistic that's a negative is her assist-to-turnover ratio. She turned the basketball over too much, and so do we clean that up? Do we create easier opportunities for her to make decisions where the help's coming from, as opposed to maybe getting double and triple teamed in the lane and turning it over that way? So, that's going to be a growth opportunity for her. But you'll see them in a lot of pick and rolls. That's probably the biggest difference.
Who are your three-point shooters? Is that everybody or who in particular?
Well, we let everyone shoot them right now.
Right.
Certainly there's going to be some yellow lights. There's no red lights right now, but there could be some yellows soon, and then maybe a few reds. But ultimately, Jordan Lewis is a great three-point shooter. Jamie Asbury is a great three-point shooter. Kamaria McDaniel, when her feet are set and has time, is a good three-point shooter. I think the player that I hope everyone gets excited about and on board about is Caitlin Bickel. I think she has a chance to have a breakout year. It's been tough for that kid. I mean, she was a top 30 kid coming out of high school, but she came into a class with Nalissa and Queen. They're both going to be first-round draft picks, in my opinion. She was behind Lauren Cox, who was a player of the year in this league. She was behind Kalani Brown, who was a player in this league. So she's been a role player her whole career, and part of my job is getting her to understand she's better than a role player. She really gets what we do. She sees the big picture. We function really well when she's on the court because she's a great screener. She's a great passer. And so, hopefully you see her confidently step up and take open shots and not kind of have fear of coming out of the game if she misses a shot or doesn't throw it into the post. And so, and then Sarah Andrews can really fill it up too. She's really, really good inside 5 feet and from the arc. And she's probably the most dynamic playmaker we have as far as her ability to throw all the different kinds of passes. She knows when to bounce it, when to drop it, when to throw the high pass. So her game is really, really special. Like it's hard to compare this way, but I've used it some and I use it again. She has some Odyssey Sims specialness to her.
Okay.
Not the dog on defense, and I mean that in a positive way, like that Odyssey was. Odyssey might be one of the best on-ball defenders college women's basketball has ever seen. But I think she has like all the tools and probably a better three-point shooter than Odyssey was or even maybe is today.
Wow, that's great. Got a lot of weapons there. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back with more in a moment. We're visiting with Coach Nicki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach. More from Rudy's on the Baylor Coaches Show right after this. Back with us on tonight's Baylor Coaches Show. We're glad you're with us. Time for the Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics Health Tip of the night. Staying home is one of the best ways to stay well and reduce the spread of COVID-19. Avoid contact with others, limit unnecessary trips, and have groceries delivered. Find more tips at bswhealth.com/COVID-19. That's the Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics Health Tip of the night. Back with Baylor women's coach Nicki Collen here this evening. And in your background, I was interested to learn that you were an engineering major. That's a straight line, isn't it, from an engineering major to coaching?
No, I don't know there's many of us out there, you know. I think it was, I'm not sure I ever wanted to be an engineer.
Yeah.
You know, if I could still be a basketball player, I'd be a basketball player, but you have to major in something when you go to college. And so for me, I liked math, I liked science, and particularly like the physical science. I wasn't a big biology person, but like chemistry, like physics. So, you know, when I went to Purdue is very well known as an engineering school. And so, you know, one of my childhood dreams was to be an astronaut. I come from a family of pilots. My dad was a private pilot. My uncles, my cousins were all pilots. And so the whole kind of aerospace, aeronautical thing was intriguing to me. But, you know, the year I went to Purdue, not to age myself, 1993, they'd made a ton of cuts to the NASA space program from a timing perspective. So my academic coordinator at the time said, don't go into aerospace, go into mechanical. You'll have more of a broad-based education, take your electives in aerospace and aeronautical. And then I transferred to Marquette, and they didn't have that. So a mechanical engineering I am.
Yeah, how about that? That's a great story. Are there things with your math mind, analytic things that work for you now that you use in coaching?
Yeah, I've always said, like, I don't think I've certainly never been an engineer a day in my life. There's probably not been a day in my adult life that I haven't used my engineering degree.
Okay.
Engineering is very much about problem solving, and it's why med schools love engineers, law schools love engineers, because it's about critical thinking. It's how you process information. It's about what assumptions you make and how you solve those problems and get to an answer, whether it's a right answer or not. And so, I think honestly, like, we've always had statistics. Like, analytics is a fancy new word for statistics. What we have with analytics today is them at our fingertips in so many ways. And so now we have websites where we can do drop downs and put any lineup in and find out their plus minus, their offense and defensive efficiency, and then we can remove one person from that lineup and put one other person in and compare two lineups side by side. And really, now I always say there's still the eye test. Like, you can look at the analytics, but I'm never going to live there. I just love information. And so the more information I can gather, it allows me to have that, gut decision that's not just like I'm pulling it out of the sky or that I'm waiting for some sign. It's like there's valuable information in play. So yeah, I think we use that. That doesn't mean you have to be an engineering degree or someone that uses that, but I think it's a big part of what we do.
That's very cool. That's really interesting. Someone told me that I need to ask you about your game-winning shot for Team Pizza Hut.
Oh, gosh.
When was this? What level?
Fifth grade.
Oh, fifth grade.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We're going back to fifth grade with Coach Collen now. Team Pizza Hut.
So the story goes like this. I wasn't a basketball player until the fifth grade. I loved tennis. I played every sport when I was a little kid. Soccer. I tried them all. Played Little League baseball. But when we moved from Indiana to Wisconsin, we didn't have a feeder program for tennis. There was no high school program. There was no country club program. There just wasn't tennis. And so, I started practicing basketball simply because I had a hoop in our house. And so my dad was coaching us. Back then, small town, there were no girls' leagues. If you played, you were in a rec league. And so I was the only girl on my team. I was on Pizza Hut. We were 5-0. We were playing American Family Insurance, also 5-0. So it was the big game of the season.
Right.
So I was on an all-boys team. I was a fifth grader. We had sixth graders on our team, and I hit the game-winning shot and that was honestly, like, it. We all have those moments in our life that we can point to and say, I got into this because that was my aha moment. I remember that moment falling in love with the game of basketball,
wow.
And then from there, almost every decision I made going forward had that orange ball kind of involved, like I certainly continued. I was a 4-sport athlete in high school. Softball was the sport I probably excelled in the most. But basketball was the sport I loved. And so, this is where it's taken me.
Wow, fascinating. That's great. Well, we need to let you go. There's some WNBA playoff games on. Maybe you didn't notice that.
Yeah,
but,
I did notice. Right over there.
I know, right beyond the camera there. So we'll let you go. Keep an eye on those. But wonderful to have you here tonight. We'll have you back for sure. And thanks very much for being here.
All right, great to be here.
Coach Nicki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach. Season openers November 9th for the Baylor women this year. We'll switch gears, and Coach Dave Aranda will join us when we come back. Stay with us. Bottom of the hour. Baylor Coaches Show continues right after this. Back with us as we continue on the Baylor Coaches Show this evening. Thanks to Coach Nicki Collen for being here the first half hour. And join me in welcoming in Baylor head football coach Dave Aranda as we continue here live from Rudy's. Coach, this is a great crowd here tonight.
This is a great crowd.
This
Happy
is fun.
To be here.
Yeah, this is fun. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to Rudy's. Our host, Nick, is back there in the back. Say thanks to Nick and our host here at Rudy's. We appreciate you all very much, and always great to come to Rudy's. All right, welcome to you. How's practice been this week? Looking to rebound from the first setback of the year on Saturday.
It's been a great week. This has been our best week, and so coming on Monday, just the focus and the intention, and then Tuesday the energy, and then stacking days. So just walked off the field just a couple minutes ago today, and it was the best Wednesday that we've had. So excited for that. I think the guys they feel it, the need for a great game here coming up, and they want it bad, and the energy from start to finish has been there, so it's way cool to be a part of.
Today, I think Wednesdays are Turnover Wednesdays,
That's right?
How did Turnover Wednesday go today?
Good.
Who won?
Well, yeah, normally we want to get three. We did not get three. We got two.
Okay.
But there was some opportunities that we probably could have capitalized on, but it's the energy in the meetings. It's the energy when we're jogging out to the field. It's when we're warming up and guys, Jalen Petrie is talking to Gary Bohannon, and Ebner's got something to say, and it's back and forth. And then we have individual drills, and they're going full speed, and just the whole thing is just built on top of each other, and they're playing for each other. So it's way cool to see that. And I think it speaks well of kind of their mindset.
Well, today's Turnover Wednesday. Saturday was Turnover Saturday. You guys got three at a 3-0 advantage over Oklahoma State. You got 3 interceptions. Only downside to that, you didn't get any points out of the 3 takeaways.
I know. I think, defensively, our ability to get takeaways is something I think that has been with our guys for quite some time. And, we're continuing on the emphasis and the techniques and just everything that goes into it. So it's really good to see. I think we're really working hard on getting a consensus of team defense. And so, getting 3 and outs, stopping the run, right, being where you need to be. We talk about doing your 1/11th. So 11 guys on the field doing your 1/11th and not trying to do someone else's job. I think those are areas on defense that we can improve. I think the big play and the takeaway and all of those are things that we're blessed with, and we have the opportunity to do that more. Then offensively, we've got to be able to execute our perimeter blocking. If a team is going to put everybody in the box, we were outnumbered throughout the night on Saturday night, and so our ability to block that, and then our ability to win one-on-one, to be able to stretch it out. There should be 3 levels of defense: a D-line, the linebackers, and secondary. The more the secondary creeps up to linebacker level, really we have to be able to complete throws down the field. I think in the second half we're able to do that, and I think right after that we're able to run more effectively because of that. And we had some opportunities in the beginning of the game that we did not capitalize on. And so, that's a different style of defense here coming up, and so I would anticipate for them to try to take a page out of the book that we were just part of, and so we'll see how much work we've put into it.
You used a term Saturday postgame that I hadn't heard you say before: competitive maturity. Talking about your team, what is that in your mind, and where do we need to be better?
Yeah, I think pressure creates abnormal behavior. I think. And I think in football, but really more importantly in life as well. And so, you look at, like, if you just look at football, if there's a technique or there's a play, you work. Say we draw it up on the board and we listen to it, and then we see film and we nod our head, we understand it, and then we can go even execute it in a walkthrough or a practice setting. That's one thing. But a lot of times that is not transferred over into a big stage or a big game environment because of the bright lights, because of fear of failure, because of the pressure to win, because of the competitiveness that everyone's being overtaken with. And so the ability to be your best authentic self in the most pressurized competitive environment, that would be competitive maturity. I think, and it goes for coaches too. Like for me, like if I'm coaching and say a player does something that is not something that I approve of, if I were to go, he's doing that just to make me mad. He's doing that because I don't like that, and he's doing that just to kind of get under my skin. Yeah. That would be, to me, competitive immaturity. Yeah. I think, and so for players and coaches, and so for us in the biggest moments to be our best is the key. And I think, that has been a fight where we'll continue to fight. I love our guys, and so we're making a commitment to do that.
And you said Monday at your press conference, the errors, not being able to run the ball, whatever you saw on tape are correctable. I mean, there are things you can fix and be better at.
Yeah, I think, in this particular game, a lot of the errors in the blocking was on the perimeter, cracking the extra guy in the box, the safeties, the majority of the time. And then I think, as the game went on, some of our O-line tried to do too much because we weren't having success out here. We just talked about our 111th, so we weren't having success out here blocking. So now in here they're trying to overcompensate, so it became like that. I think our ability to be better there on the perimeter and then really take ownership of what we can control inside, I think is going to be real key.
Good. West Virginia coming in on Saturday, 11 a.m. Saturday morning for the next game. Let's take a break. We'll talk about that with Coach Aranda when we come back. You're tuned in to the Baylor Coaches Show tonight, live from Rudy's Real Texas Barbecue. And we'll be back with Coach Aranda right after this. Back with us on the Baylor Coaches Show tonight, live from Rudy's on the Circle in Waco. Coach Dave Aranda is with us. Coach, we've got our Academy Sports and Outdoors Ask the Coach question this evening, and here it is.
Hey, Coach. What area are you looking for the most improvement over the rest of the season?
I would say competitive maturity. I would say that, the ability to be our best when things are the toughest. I would go back to the Saturday game. There's things as a coaching staff that we could certainly do better. When we're backed up and the crowd is loud, and there's such a difference really from maybe secondhand knowledge of something and then firsthand experience. And so that would be an illustration of just competitive maturity. It's one thing to know about a thing, it's another thing to be in the thing for the first time. And so I think the lessons learned, I think the application of what we can improve on, and this is what we want to be about, and this is who we are. I think all of those things will continue to take hold as the season goes.
Very good. That's our Academy Sports and Outdoors Ask the Coach question tonight. Academy Sports and Outdoors, the official sporting goods and outdoor retailer of the Big 12 Conference. Got a couple of questions from our audience as well. First Place Foods Ask the Coach. Steve Van Wagner is right there, and Steve says, do you think all the penalties we incurred while playing Oklahoma State were due to lack of focus?
I think a lot of them are caused from guys getting into a spot that they've never been in and trying to do too much and trying to if we're down 7-0 or we're down 14-0 or whatever it is, to try to get all those points in one play. I think a lot of it's that. And so I think there's a fair amount of folks that struggled. It was their first time ever in that environment. Now, they had been on teams that had been in those environments, but that was the first time for them in that specific, and they were the guy. Like, when they're coming in the huddle, we're looking at you. Like, this is what you got to do, And so I think there's a fair amount of stuff like that. And then I think the pressing and the trying to, it's almost like, I think, in outside of football, if you're in a job or you took a new job or you moved somewhere new and you want to meet people and meet friends and you're trying to almost be somebody that you're not. You know what I mean? I think a lot of that was that. And so we have to be able to know who we are, settle down, and play out of our value, and we'll be all right.
Steve, good question. Appreciate that. First Place Foods Ask the Coach question. First Place Foods, that's a darn good pickle. Another question's from Tommy right here, and Tommy says, Coach, what are the positives from our game with Oklahoma State last week?
I thought we continued to fight. At halftime, Gary Bohannon brought up the team and spoke to them in a real positive way. There was never any pointing of the fingers when we were, it was the first time really we were ever down. And so there was never any of that. There was continued positive stuff. We had a negative would be something on the sideline that happened with Matt Jones, but we had players pulling them away and players talking them up and trying to get them back in a good space. And so all of that have been things that, really everything has to be coached, right? Like everything has to be really kind of defined, and then it's got to be managed, and then really, if we're asking for all this competitive maturity and all this stuff, it's got to be modeled, right? And so to have guys that are really taking steps in that direction, even though it's difficult with a game like what happened on Saturday to see clearly when it's so dirty, but there's positive things. We're going to build off of it.
Very good. Tommy, thank you very much. First Place Foods Ask the Coach. First Place Foods, that's a darn good pickle. Let me ask you this from Saturday, also in the coaching chess match that takes place not only during the week and then during the game also, with Oklahoma State stacking the box with as many guys as they had up there. That's on tape now. Do other teams try that? Would it be out of their personality to try that, and what do you do to combat that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. I think there's some teams to where that is just not in their wheelhouse to have that many people. I mean, some of the stuff that we were going against looked like a punt block, on defense. And so I think it takes, now for them to have success with it, kind of is what you're asking, is begging the question. But there's so many folks that play, cloud coverage here. That means a safety's back, or we're playing quarters coverage here, which means this corner has this fourth of the field, this safety has this fourth of the field, and just their approach to defense is just so vastly different than that. So I would think there's maybe a few teams that fit that, but I don't think the majority of our league is fitting that. For us, though, when we see that again, we have to be able to win the one-on-ones on the outside to stretch the defense. And so that has been an emphasis for us this week, and will continue to be. And then we've got to be able to effectively block on the perimeter, and so that we can crack safeties. A lot of times when you crack that safety, you bring the corner with you, especially if there's a run and pass that look the same. They don't know if it's that or if it's just this with a crack. And so those are things that we have to execute better and be prepared for.
All right, very good. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about West Virginia, this week's opponent, Baylor and West Virginia, on Saturday at McLean Stadium. Bright and early, everybody. 11 a.m. start, 11 a.m. kickoff for the Bears and the Mountaineers. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're tuned in to the Baylor Coaches Show, live from Rudy's, and we'll be back with Coach Dave Aranda right after this. And back with us on the Baylor Coaches Show tonight, live from Rudy's. Do appreciate everyone that is here in person, everyone that is watching, everyone that is listening. Thank you very much. We appreciate your participation in our Baylor Coaches Show. One more segment with Coach Dave Aranda, and we're this far into it with you, and I haven't asked you about Terrell Bernard yet, who missed the Oklahoma State game, got injured at Iowa State. How's he doing?
He's great. Yeah, so he's been practicing this entire week. We're looking forward to him being back. You know, I think just his presence, his leadership. You know, just today we had team period, and there's formation, and he's calling out the strength and the coverage adjustment, and there's emotion, and then he's saying, hey, be alert for this play. So just all of that. There's just so much that comes with Terrell on top of the playmaking ability, not even talking about the quality of human being he is. And so we miss him, and we're excited that he's back with us.
Boy, that's great. That is good news to have him back. Talking about West Virginia this week coming in, they're 2-3 in the league. Dropped a decision to Texas Tech last week. We mentioned turnovers earlier. You're really good in that area. +5, best in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. West Virginia coming in is -5. Mm-hmm. That probably every game that's a big factor, but maybe more so this week.
Yeah, there's a big difference between the two. I've got a lot of respect for Neil Brown. His just knowing him and knowing his heart and the type of person that he is and the type of program that he's working to lead. I have a lot of respect for him. Have talked with him a fair amount in the off season, just whether it's about name, image, likeness, or Alston case, and just the things that are coming. Down college athletics. He's a deep thinker, so I appreciate that. And so I know this is a big one for him, and I want to see him have success, just not Saturday at 11
This
o'clock.
week, right.
Yeah.
That's great. They've got a pretty stout defensive line. They've got a pretty stout defense overall. Y'all are 1 and 2, separated by only a yard, and the yardage you've given up over 5 games. How is their defensive front, or maybe the front 7, compared to the teams you've seen?
They're very twitchy. I think their D linemen are some of the best in our league, and I think there's a fair amount of disruption and twists and stunts, and not a lot. There's gap integrity there, but it's more it nudges and leans more to disruption over kind of gap control, and so there's big plays that they get, but there's also big plays that we could get, and so. Secondary-wise, I think they like to mix up coverages and doubling people and quarter, half, and 3 deep, and mixing it up that way. I think when you flip it and you look at offensively, they've got a running back that's been in the league for quite some time, got great vision, is a power runner, has got good speed. The receivers might be the most talented receivers we've faced to this year. I think their slot receiver and their Z and their X, when they're on the field at the same time, either of those 3 could catch and go the whole distance, and so it's a challenge. And the week that we've had, the prep, the look in our eyes when you're up in the second floor at our spot and you're meeting with guys and you're crossing the hall with guys, you feel the intensity, and so it's fun to be a part of.
Nice. They use 2 quarterbacks, but it seems like there's certain things that you can pinpoint they do with Daggy and certain things they do with Green. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I think one is going to be more of a drop-back passer and is not really going to move out of the pocket. He's going to do everything he can to throw the ball. And, I think he's forced some throws. He likes the deep ball. They will throw the all goes quite a bit. And then the younger one is going to be really sideline to sideline. There's going to be some type of package for him where it's almost like a wildcat package. Now, he can throw it, but they want him to be a runner. I think he saw some time early in the season and had some success. I think some of the fan base there is pushing for him, and so I think to play him helps Neil in a couple different ways.
Yeah. Final question, last 30 seconds with you. Back home, we saw that crowd in Stillwater at Boone Pickens Stadium last week. Be nice to have a big home, vibrant crowd on Saturday.
What a big difference, from this year, just for me personally, just from last year to this year, just the advent of home field advantage is just so strong. Whereas last year you didn't really feel that,
right.
And here it's, we felt it on the other end of it. Just when we were down, there's this hard to hear. You're looking at people's lips, and we got signs for things, and so I'm trying to pick up the signs, and so I think to have that work for us here in a couple games in a row is going to be good to have. We need as many people as we can.
Very nice. We'll let you go get some barbecue and head home or go back to work. Thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Coach
Appreciate
Dave
y'all.
Aranda, Baylor head football coach, Bears and Mountaineers on Saturday. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back to wrap things up on tonight's Baylor Coaches Show. And back with just enough time to wrap things up on tonight's Baylor Coaches Show here live from Rudy's. Thanks again to a great crowd here at Rudy's. Thanks to everyone watching or listening this evening. Here's a look at the upcoming events in Baylor athletics. Baylor Volleyball is playing right now this evening in Denton against the University of North Texas. Then they're open this weekend. Baylor Equestrian with their home opener on Friday at 1, hosting Oklahoma State at the Willis Family Equestrian Center. Soccer is in action. They're doing the Kansas two-step this week. They'll play at Kansas on Thursday evening at 7. They'll play at Kansas State Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. And Baylor football, we mentioned, versus West Virginia. That is Saturday morning at 11 a.m. kickoff for the Bears and the Mountaineers coming up on Saturday. That's a look at the upcoming schedule in Baylor athletics. Hey, we do appreciate Coach Nicki Collen being with us this evening, and thanks to Coach Dave Aranda as well. Next week, Scott Drew and Dave Aranda will see you for next week's Baylor Coaches Show. Thank you, Mitch.
Presentation from Learfield.